We're not running a charity here." Those words came from my own daughter's mouth, but the venom behind them belonged to him. Kyle. My son-in-law. The man who stood behind her with his arms crossed, that smirk playing at the corners of his lips like he'd just won something. "You're just an extra mouth to feed," he added, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. I stood there in their kitchen, the kitchen where I'd cooked dinner every night for 3 months, where I'd scrubbed the grout on my hands and knees trying to be useful, trying to earn my keep, and felt something inside me shatter. Rosie, my daughter, wouldn't meet my eyes. Just stared at the floor, her fingers twisted together like they used to when she was small, and knew she'd done something wrong. 2 suitcases. That's all I had left after 59 years of living. Everything else had been sold when Gerald died, when the medical bills came due, when the house we'd built together had to go to pay for his final months. I stood outside their apartment building that November night, cold wind cutting through my coat, and I realized I had nowhere to go. No family. No friends close enough to impose on. Just 2 suitcases and a daughter who'd chosen her husband over her mother. They had no idea what I'd just inherited. I was about to own the roof over their heads. Hey friend, if you love real gripping stories where justice hits hard and betrayal never goes unpunished, please subscribe. It's 1 second for you but a big deal for me. I never thought I'd be kicked out by my own child. But here's what they didn't know. My name is Eleanor Hartwell, and for 37 years I thought I knew what love looked like. It looked like Gerald, tall, kind Gerald with his carpenter's hands and his terrible jokes. It looked like Sunday mornings with pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse for Rosie. It looked like scraped knees and piano recitals, and the way my husband would kiss my forehead every single morning before he left for work. We weren't rich. Gerald built custom furniture in a small shop downtown, and I worked part-time at the library once Rosie started school. But we had enough. We had each other. We had a little house in a quiet neighborhood with a porch swing and rose bushes I'd planted the year Rosie was born. When Gerald got sick, everything changed. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors gave him 6 months and he lasted 8, fighting every single day. I watched the strongest man I'd ever known waste away to nothing, watched him lose his hair, his strength, his ability to eat solid food. But never his spirit. Never that. "Take care of our girl," he whispered to me the night before he died. His hand was so thin in mine, all bones and papery skin. "Promise me, Ellie. Take care of Rosie." "I promise," I told him. And I meant it with every fiber of my being. The funeral was small. Rosie and Kyle had been married for 2 years by then, and I tried so hard to like him. Tried to see what she saw, the confidence, the ambition, the way he talked about their future like he was planning to conquer the world. But there was something cold in Kyle's eyes. Something that calculated rather than felt. At Gerald's funeral, he spent more time checking his phone than comforting my daughter. The bills came fast after that. Medical debt. Funeral costs. The house had a second mortgage we'd taken out to cover treatments insurance wouldn't pay for. Within 3 months, I'd sold everything, the house, the furniture Gerald had made, my car. I moved into a small apartment and tried to figure out how to live on a widow's pension and library wages. That's when Rosie called. "Mom, you can't live in that neighborhood. It's not safe. Kyle and I have been talking. Why don't you stay with us for a while? Just until you get back on your feet." I should have heard the warning in for a while. Should have caught the hesitation in her voice. But I was drowning, and my daughter was throwing me a rope. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I don't want to be a burden." "Don't be silly. You're my mom. Kyle thinks it's a great idea." Lie number 1. I moved into their spare bedroom in early September. The apartment was nice, much nicer than anywhere I could afford. 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, granite countertops. Kyle worked in tech sales, something I never quite understood but that apparently paid very well. The first week was fine. Pleasant, even. I cooked dinners, nothing fancy, just the comfort food Rosie had grown up with. Pot roast. Chicken and dumplings. My mother's apple pie recipe. Kyle would nod approvingly and say things like "not bad," or "my mother uses less salt." The second week, I started noticing things. The way Kyle would sigh heavily if I was in the kitchen when he got home. The way he'd change the channel if I was watching something on TV. The eye rolls when I asked questions. Small things. Ignorable things. By the third week, I started making myself scarce. Staying in my room more. Eating before they got home so I wouldn't intrude on their dinner time. Trying to take up as little space as possible. You don't have to hide, Rosie said one morning, catching me sneaking to the kitchen at 6 a.m. to make coffee before they woke up. I'm not hiding, I lied. Just like the quiet. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but Kyle's alarm went off and the moment passed. I tried to contribute. Cleaned obsessively. Did their laundry. Ran errands. Offered to pay for groceries from my small savings. But every contribution seemed to annoy Kyle more rather than less. I don't know why she's reorganizing our kitchen, I heard him say one night through the thin walls. Like we can't figure out where our own plates go. She's just trying to help, Rosie replied, but her voice was weak. Apologetic. She's trying to take over. There's a difference. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, listening to them argue about me in hushed tones, and wondered how long I could last. The answer was 3 months. October brought a chill to the air and an even deeper freeze inside the apartment. Kyle stopped pretending to be polite. He'd walk past me without speaking. Leave his dishes on the counter for me to clean. Make pointed comments about some people not contributing to the household. I offered to help with rent, I said quietly one evening after he made another remark about finances. With what? Kyle laughed. Your social security check? That would cover what, maybe a week of utilities. Rosie was sitting right there. She said nothing. The comments got worse. Must be nice not having to work. Some people really know how to freeload. I guess we're running a retirement home now. Each one landed like a small cut. Individually, they were survivable. But they added up. Bled into each other. Made me feel smaller every day. I started eating less. Told myself it was to save the money on groceries, but really I just couldn't swallow food around the knot of shame in my throat. My clothes started hanging loose. I avoided mirrors. You look thin, Mom, Rosie said one morning, concerned. Before I could answer, Kyle called from the living room. Maybe she's trying to eat less. Being considerate for once. I watched my daughter's face. Watched her open her mouth. Watched her close it again. Watched her walk away without defending me. That hurt more than anything Kyle could say. I tried to find work. At 59, with a gap in my resume and limited skills, the options were grim. Fast food places wanted younger workers. Retail stores needed people who could stand for 8-hour shifts. My back couldn't take it. My pride could barely take filling out applications at places where the managers were young enough to be my children. Any luck job hunting? Kyle would ask with that smirk. We both knew the answer. November arrived cold and gray. I'd been there 3 months. 3 months of walking on eggshells. 3 months of feeling like an unwanted houseguest in my own daughter's home. 3 months of watching Kyle slowly poison the relationship I'd spent 28 years building with Rosie. The final straw came on a Tuesday. I'd made dinner, just spaghetti, nothing fancy. Kyle came home, looked at the table, and said, Again? We had Italian last week. I can make something else. Don't bother. I'm not hungry anyway. He walked past me to the bedroom. Rosie picked at her food, not meeting my eyes. Honey, did I do something wrong? No, Mom. It's just... Kyle's been stressed. Work stuff. Is it me? Am I making things harder for you too? She put down her fork. For a moment, I saw conflict flash across her face, the little girl who used to crawl into my lap when she was sad warring with the woman who'd chosen her husband's comfort over her mother's dignity. Maybe. She started, then stopped. Maybe it would be better if we had some space. Just for a little while. My heart dropped. Space. Not forever. Just. Kyle thinks. We both think maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere of your own. More independent. Independent. That's what we were calling it now. With what money, Rosie? There are programs. For seniors. Assisted living places that work with people on fixed incomes. Assisted living. She was trying to put me in a home. I'm 59 years old. I'm not elderly. I know, Mom. I just mean. Kyle appeared in the doorway. She means we can't do this anymore. His voice was flat. Final. We've been more than generous. But 3 months is enough. We're not a charity. Kyle, Rosie started. No. He cut her off. We've talked about this. It's not sustainable. Your mother needs to figure out her own situation. We have our own lives to live. I looked at my daughter. Waited for her to defend me. To tell him he was being cruel. To remember who'd raised her, who'd sacrificed for her, who'd loved her unconditionally her entire life. She looked at the floor. You're just an extra mouth to feed, Kyle continued. And honestly? I'm tired of pretending this is temporary. You need to leave. The room went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I felt like I was floating above my body, watching this happen to someone else. This couldn't be real. My own child wasn't doing this to me. Rosie. My voice cracked. She still wouldn't look at me. Maybe it's for the best, Mom. For everyone. For everyone. Not for me. For everyone else. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. When? This weekend, Kyle said. That gives you 3 days to make arrangements. 3 days to find a place I couldn't afford with money I didn't have. I walked to my room without another word. Closed the door. Sat on the edge of the bed that wasn't mine in a room that wasn't mine in a life that apparently wasn't mine either. And for the first time since Gerald died, I let myself completely break down. Those 3 days felt like 3 years. I barely left my room. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I called a few shelters, but they were full. Looked at rooms for rent, but they wanted first month, last month, and deposit, money I simply didn't have. I texted Rosie once, "Can we talk? Please?" She didn't respond. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling. I packed my 2 suitcases, one with clothes, one with photos and Gerald's watch and a few books. Everything else I left behind. What did it matter anymore? Kyle was in the living room when I came out, watching football. He didn't look up. Where's Rosie? Grocery store. She couldn't even be here. Couldn't face me. Can you tell her? I stopped. What was there to say? Tell her I love her. Kyle made a non-committal sound. I took one last look around the apartment. At the kitchen where I'd tried so hard to be helpful. At the couch where Rosie and I used to watch movies together before Kyle decided I was taking up too much space. At the window with its view of the city where I'd stood so many mornings wondering how my life had become so small. Have a nice life, Kyle said as I reached the door. I didn't respond. Didn't trust my voice. The elevator ride down felt endless. 23 floors of my life collapsing floor by floor. The lobby was empty except for the doorman, who nodded politely without asking why the middle-aged woman was crying. I stood outside on the sidewalk, rain soaking into my coat, suitcases at my feet. Pedestrians flowed around me like water around a stone. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone belonged somewhere. Except me. My phone rang. For a wild moment, I thought it might be Rosie, calling to say she'd made a terrible mistake. Come back, please come back. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Eventually, I started walking. Didn't know where I was going. Just walked until I found a motel, the kind with hourly rates posted in the window and a flickering neon sign that said vacancy in sad pink letters. How long? The clerk asked. I don't know. Then, because I had to say something, a week. It cost most of what I had left. The room smelled like cigarettes and defeat. Brown water stains on the ceiling. A TV that only got 3 channels. A bed that sagged in the middle. I sat on the edge of that bed and stared at my suitcases and tried to figure out what came next. My phone buzzed. Text from Rosie, I'm sorry. Just that. 2 words. No explanation. No comeback. No, I was wrong. Just sorry, like that fixed anything. I didn't respond. Over the next week, I sent her 3 more messages. Asked if we could talk. Asked if she was okay. Asked if she missed me at all. Silence. The week at the motel turned into 2. My money was running out faster than I'd thought possible. I ate once a day, dollar menu items from the fast food place 2 blocks away. Lost more weight. Stopped looking in mirrors entirely. I thought about calling old friends, but what would I say? My daughter kicked me out and I'm living in a motel. Can I stay with you? The shame was too heavy to carry into someone else's home. One morning, I couldn't get out of bed. Just lay there staring at the water stains and thinking how easy it would be to just stop. Stop trying. Stop fighting. Stop pretending any of this mattered. Gerald's voice echoed in my memory. Promise me, Ellie. Take care of our girl. I'd promised. But I'd failed. Rosie didn't want to be taken care of. She'd made her choice, and it wasn't me. I closed my eyes and let the darkness pull me under. I woke up to pounding on the door. Disoriented, I checked my phone. 2 p.m. I'd slept for 14 hours. Housekeeping. Not today, I called out, my voice hoarse. But the knocking continued. Eventually, I dragged myself up and opened the door. Mail for you, the housekeeper said, handing me a manila envelope. Was left at desk. I took it, confused. Nobody knew I was here. The envelope had no return address. Just my name, Eleanor Hartwell, typed on the front. Inside was a letter on expensive stationery and a business card. Dear Mrs. Hartwell. My name is Thomas Whitmore, and I am the executor of your late husband Gerald Hartwell's estate. I have been trying to reach you for several weeks regarding an urgent matter concerning inheritance and property holdings in Mr. Hartwell's name. It is imperative that we meet as soon as possible. Please contact my office at your earliest convenience. Inheritance? Gerald and I had nothing. We'd sold everything to pay his medical bills. Hadn't we? I stared at the letter for a long time. It was probably a scam. Had to be. But what did I have to lose at this point? I called the number on the business card. Whitmore and Associates, a professional voice answered. This is Eleanor Hartwell. I received a letter from Thomas Whitmore. Mrs. Hartwell. Yes, Mr. Whitmore has been hoping you'd call. Can you come to the office today? I don't have a car. We can send a car for you. What's your address? I gave her the motel address, shame burning in my chest. Someone will be there in an hour. The car that arrived was a sleek black sedan. The driver opened the door for me like I was someone important. I felt ridiculous climbing into it with my discount store coat and my unwashed hair. Whitmore and Associates occupied the 20th floor of a downtown high-rise. The lobby was all marble and leather. I felt even more out of place than I had in the car. Thomas Whitmore was a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. His office had floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the city that probably cost more per month than I'd made in a year at the library. Mrs. Hartwell. Thank you for coming. Please sit. I sat in a leather chair that was probably worth more than everything I owned. I'll get straight to the point, he said. Your husband had a life insurance policy through his union that he never mentioned to you. It was set up 40 years ago when he first started his carpentry apprenticeship and automatically deducted from his paycheck. He likely forgot about it himself. My heart started pounding. How much? The base policy was $100,000, but it had accidental death and long-term illness riders. With the terminal illness clause and the accumulation over 40 years. He slid a paper across the desk. The payout is $847,000. The room spun. I gripped the arms of the chair. But the medical bills were paid by his insurance and Medicare. This is separate. Additionally, your husband owned a small piece of property outside the city. 20 acres. His father left it to him decades ago. It's undeveloped land, but it's recently been rezoned for commercial use. It's worth approximately $380,000 at current market value. I couldn't breathe. That's $1.2 million, give or take. Whitmore smiled gently. Mrs. Hartwell, you're a wealthy woman. I sat in that office for an hour while he explained everything. The insurance policy that had been sitting unclaimed because I didn't know about it. The land that Gerald had inherited from his estranged father and never thought about because it was just empty acres of nothing. The way everything had been sitting there waiting, while I'd been eating dollar menu hamburgers and trying to figure out how to survive. Why didn't Gerald know? I finally asked. The insurance statements went to his work. After he retired, they were likely filed away. As for the land, his father passed 25 years ago. Gerald may not have even realized it transferred to him. Sometimes inheritances slip through the cracks, especially when relationships are strained. Gerald's father had been a difficult man. They'd barely spoken. What do I need to do? Sign some papers. I'll have everything transferred into your name within 2 weeks. In the meantime. He pulled out a checkbook. I can advance you $50,000 today so you don't have to wait. He wrote a check and slid it across the desk. $50,000. More money than I'd seen in my entire life. I stared at it until the numbers blurred. Mrs. Hartwell? Are you all right? I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, kicked out with nothing, and now this. Life's cruelest joke or greatest gift, I couldn't tell which. I'm fine, I said, wiping my eyes. I'm fine. I didn't go back to the motel. Instead, I checked into a decent hotel, nothing fancy, but clean and safe with a real bed and hot water that didn't run brown. I soaked in the bath for an hour, washing away weeks of despair. Then I sat on the bed with my phone and started searching. The building where Rosie and Kyle lived. I'd never paid attention to the name before, but I remembered it now, Riverside Towers. I typed it into Google. The search results made me sit up straight. Riverside Towers foreclosure auction scheduled for December 15th. The building was being sold. The previous owner had defaulted on property taxes and the bank was seizing it. I clicked through page after page of information. The building had 32 units. It was in a prime location. Market value was estimated at $2.8 million, but foreclosures often went for less. An idea started forming. Dangerous. Crazy. Perfect. The next morning, I called Thomas Whitmore. I want to buy a property, I said. And I need help setting up an LLC. He didn't ask questions. Just said, let me connect you with our real estate attorney. By the end of the week, I had a new bank account with $847,000 in it, an LLC called Hartwell Property Holdings, a real estate lawyer named Janet Chin, who smiled like a shark, a crash course in property investment and landlord-tenant law. You're sure about this? Janet asked as we prepared the bid. It's a big investment for a first-time property owner. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The auction was held in a drafty courthouse on a Tuesday morning. There were 5 other bidders, mostly investors in expensive suits with folders full of projections and plans. I wore my best dress, bought the day before with money that still didn't feel real, and sat in the back row with my heart hammering. The auctioneer started at $2 million. Too high. The number dropped slowly. $1.9 million. $1.8 million. One by one, bidders dropped out. At $1.4 million, there were only 2 of us left, me and a man in a gray suit who kept checking his phone. $1.5 million. I raised my paddle. Gray suit looked at me, annoyed. $1.6 million. I didn't hesitate. $1.7 million. He hesitated. Checked his phone again. Lowered his paddle. Sold to Hartwell Property Holdings for $1.7 million. I'd just become my daughter's landlord. The next month was a blur of paperwork, inspections, and learning more about property management than I'd ever thought possible. Janet connected me with a management company that handled the day-to-day operations, but I insisted on being involved in major decisions. You'll want to do a rent assessment, the property manager Dylan said during our first meeting. Current rents are below market value. You could easily raise them 20 to 30% and still be competitive. What about current tenants? They'll get 90 days notice, per their lease agreements. Most will stay. Some might leave, but you'll fill the vacancies quickly. Location this good? Easy. I thought about Rosie and Kyle. About Kyle's tech job and his casual cruelty. About Rosie's silence. Raise them, I said. Across the board. 50% increase. Dylan's eyebrows rose. That's aggressive. You might lose tenants. That's fine. He shrugged. Your property. I'll draft the notices. The letters went out on January 15th, 2 months after I'd bought the building. Standard language about new ownership, improvements planned, adjusted rent rates effective April 1st. Unit 2304, Rosie and Kyle, would see their rent go from $2,400 to $3,600 per month. I waited for the phone to ring. It took 3 days. My new phone, new number, untraceable to me, buzzed with an unknown caller. I let it go to voicemail. Mom, it's Rosie. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but something weird is happening. Our rent just got raised by a lot. I don't know if you heard anything about the building being sold? Kyle is freaking out. I wanted to check in. See if you're okay. Call me back. I deleted the message. She called again the next day. And the day after that. I didn't answer. Then Kyle started leaving messages. Mrs. Hartwell, this is Kyle. Rosie's husband. Look, I know we didn't part on the best terms, but we're having a situation here and we need to know if you've had contact with the new building owner. This rent increase is insane and possibly illegal. If you know anything that could help, call us back. The desperation in his voice was music. I started going to the building. Never inside, just watching from the coffee shop across the street. I'd see Rosie leave for work in the morning, her shoulders hunched, her face tired. I'd see Kyle pacing while talking on his phone, animated and angry. I shouldn't have enjoyed it. But I did. The management company reported back to me weekly. Several tenants had complained about the increase but were paying. 2 had given notice. Unit 2304 had submitted a formal complaint alleging price gouging. What do you want me to do? Dylan asked. Respond with the standard letter. Market rate comparisons. Clause about owners' right to adjust rent with proper notice. By the book. They're going to fight this. Let them try. In February, Kyle requested a meeting with building management. Dylan called me first. He wants to know who owns the property. Says he has a lawyer friend who thinks something's fishy about the LLC structure. What did you tell him? That ownership information is private and we don't disclose it. He didn't like that. I smiled. I bet he didn't. He's threatening to sue. For what? Everything's legal. Let him threaten. But Kyle wasn't just threatening. He started digging. I found out later, much later, that he'd hired a private investigator to research Hartwell Property Holdings. But I'd been careful. The LLC was airtight. There were no public records connecting it to me. Still, the pressure was working. I could see it when I watched them from the coffee shop. Arguments on the sidewalk. Rosie crying on a bench outside. Kyle looking more disheveled every day. In March, they missed a rent payment. Dylan called immediately. Unit 2304. Rent was due yesterday. Should I send the standard late notice? Yes. And add the late fee. That's $200. I know. The late payment triggered a formal warning. 3 strikes and we could begin eviction proceedings. I knew it wouldn't come to that. Kyle's pride wouldn't let him get evicted. But the threat hung there, heavy and sharp. Rosie called again. Mom, please. I know you don't want to talk to me, and I understand, but I'm scared. We can't afford this place anymore and Kyle's talking about breaking our lease, but that would destroy our credit and I don't know what to do. Please just tell me you're okay. Tell me you found somewhere safe to live. I need to know you're okay. The pain in her voice almost broke me. Almost. I deleted the message. April arrived with rain and renewal. My first quarter as a property owner was successful. Most tenants had paid the increased rent. The 2 who'd left had been replaced immediately. Dylan was right about demand. I'd moved into a nice apartment in a different neighborhood. Nothing extravagant, just a safe 1-bedroom with good light and neighbors who smiled. I'd bought new clothes, started eating regular meals, joined a gym. The woman in the mirror looked healthier every day. But inside, I felt hollow. Revenge was supposed to feel good. Justice was supposed to heal. But mostly I just felt tired. One evening I was in the coffee shop across from Riverside Towers. It had become a habit this watching, when I saw Rosie come outside alone. She sat on a bench and put her face in her hands. Before I could think better of it, I walked over. Rosie. She looked up, startled. It took her a moment to recognize me. I looked so different now. Mom. She stood up, tears already streaming. Oh my God. Mom, where have you been? I've been calling and calling. I know. Are you okay? Where are you living? Do you need money? I've been so worried. I'm fine. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I should never have let Kyle. I should have stood up for you. I should have. Stop. She looked at me, confused by my tone. You made your choice, Rosie. You chose him over me. I know I did, and I hate myself for it. But please, Mom, please give me a chance to make it right. I miss you so much. I think about you every day. Please. I studied her face. She looked older, tired, like she'd been carrying a heavy weight. How's Kyle? She flinched. He's stressed. Work isn't going well. And this rent thing is killing us. We're barely making it. I'm sorry to hear that. Do you? She hesitated. Do you know anything about the new building owner? Kyle thinks someone's targeting us specifically. He's becoming paranoid. I could have told her right then. Could have revealed everything. But something held me back. I don't know anything about that, I lied. We stood there in awkward silence. Can we have coffee? She asked. Please? Just talk. Not today. Her face crumpled. When? I don't know, Rosie. I need time. How much time? I don't know that either. I started to walk away. Mom? I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you. I looked back. I love you too, sweetheart. But love isn't always enough. I left her standing there, crying on the sidewalk in front of the building I owned, and I felt something crack inside my chest. This wasn't healing. This was just different pain. The mandatory tenant meeting was scheduled for May 15th. Required by law when ownership changes hands and major renovations are planned. I'd been planning it for months, rehearsing what I'd say, imagining their faces when they realized. The meeting room in the building's community space filled slowly. 28 of 32 units represented. Rosie and Kyle sat near the back, Kyle with his arms crossed, radiating hostility. Rosie looked small beside him, nervous. Dylan stood at the front with a presentation about planned improvements, new security system, lobby renovation, updated laundry facilities. All things that justified the rent increase. All things I'd actually budgeted for because I wanted to be a good landlord, not just a vengeful one. We'd also like to introduce the new owner, Dylan said. She's been hands-on throughout this transition and wanted to meet you all personally. He gestured to the side door. I took a deep breath and walked in. The room didn't react immediately. Why would they? I was just a middle-aged woman in a nice dress. Nobody they knew. But Rosie knew. I heard her gasp from across the room. Watched her grab Kyle's arm. Watched recognition and confusion and shock play across her face. Good evening, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My name is Eleanor Hartwell, and I'm the owner of Riverside Towers through Hartwell Property Holdings. The murmur of confusion ran through the room. Kyle was staring at me like I'd materialized from thin air. Many of you received notices about rent increases, I continued. I want to explain that decision and also assure you that those increases are funding real improvements to this property. You deserve a safe, well-maintained building, and that's what I intend to provide. I went through the planned renovations. Professional. Calm. Every inch the businesswoman I'd become. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Kyle's hand shot up. I have a question. I looked at him directly. Yes. What the hell is this? Some kind of sick joke? Murmurs of confusion from the other tenants. I don't understand your question, I said calmly. He stood up, his face red. You bought this building? With what money? You were living in a motel 2 months ago. The room went silent. Mister. I pretended not to know him. I'm sorry, which unit are you? You know exactly which unit. 2304. Your daughter's unit. Now the murmurs were louder. People turning to look at us. Ah yes. Kyle and Rosie. I kept my voice professional. Your account has a late payment mark and an outstanding balance including late fees of $3,800. Is this regarding a payment plan? This is regarding you being insane. Kyle's voice rose. You can't do this. This is targeted harassment. I'll sue you for discrimination for. Mr. Brennan, Dylan stepped in smoothly. If you have specific complaints about your tenancy, we can discuss them privately. This forum is for general questions about the property. General questions? She's my wife's mother. She's doing this because we kicked her out. The room erupted. Everyone talking at once, some standing, heads swiveling between Kyle and me. Rosie stood up, her face pale. Mom, what? I don't understand. How did you? Mrs. Hartwell, a woman in the front row, raised her hand. Are you saying you bought this building specifically to target your daughter? No, I said clearly. I bought this building as an investment. The fact that my daughter lives here is complicated, but it doesn't change the fact that this is a business. Everyone received the same rent increase percentage. Everyone is subject to the same policies. Except you have a personal vendetta. Kyle shouted. I have standards, I replied coolly, which include timely payment of rent and respectful behavior. If you're unable to meet those standards, there are processes in place for ending your tenancy. This is unbelievable, Kyle looked around the room. She's admitting it. She's targeting us. An older man in the middle raised his hand. I've lived here for 6 years. The previous owner let this place go to hell. Broken elevators, water leaks, security issues. If the new owner actually fixes things, I don't care about her family drama. Several other tenants nodded. The rent increase is legal, a young woman added. I checked. She gave proper notice and it's within market rate. I'm not happy about paying more, but. She shrugged. Kyle looked around wildly, realizing he wasn't getting the support he expected. Rosie, he grabbed her arm, say something. Tell them how she's. Don't, Rosie pulled her arm away, still staring at me. Just, don't. Are you serious right now? She's the one. You're the one who kicked her out. Rosie's voice cracked. You're the one who called her a freeloader, who made her feel worthless, who made me choose between you and my mother. And I chose wrong. The room went silent again. Kyle's face went through several colors. We can't afford this place because of her. We're going to lose everything. We're going to lose everything because you spent 6 months treating my mother like garbage and now we're facing the consequences. Rosie turned to me, tears streaming. Mom, Not here, I said quietly. This isn't the place. Then where? When? You won't answer my calls, you wouldn't meet me for coffee. Because I needed time to figure out who I was without you. I took a breath. I needed to become someone who couldn't be discarded. Someone who had value beyond being your mother. You always had value. Not in this apartment. Not when I pointed at Kyle, called me an extra mouth to feed and you said nothing. Not when he mocked me every single day and you looked at the floor. You made me feel like my existence was a burden, Rosie. Both of you. I know, she whispered. I know I did. And I hate myself for it. Kyle grabbed his jacket. I'm done with this. Come on, Rosie. No. He stopped. What? I said no. I'm not leaving. I need to talk to my mother. Your mother is the reason we're about to be evicted. No, Rosie said clearly. You're the reason. Your cruelty, your arrogance, your need to control everything including my relationship with my mother. This is on you. If you don't come with me right now. Then don't wait up. Rosie's voice was steady. I'll get my things later. Kyle stared at her, then at me, then back at her. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing not to be the kind of person who throws away her mother like trash. Something I should have chosen 5 months ago. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. The room sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Dylan cleared his throat. Any other questions about the building improvements? A few hands went up, and the meeting limped forward. But everyone's attention was split between the presentation and me and Rosie, who stood there crying silently. When the meeting ended, people filed out quickly, some glancing back with curiosity or sympathy or judgment. Dylan gathered his materials and gave me a meaningful look. "I'll be in my office if you need anything," he said quietly. Then it was just me and Rosie in the empty room. She sat down slowly, like her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. I stayed standing, not trusting myself to get too close. "How?" she asked finally. "How did you buy a building? You had nothing when you left. Less than nothing. Your father had a life insurance policy I didn't know about. And some land from his father. It added up to about $1.2 million. Her eyes widened. "Dad had, and you used it to buy this building?" "I used it to survive first. To become stable. The building, that came later. To punish me. To take control of my life. There's a difference." She wiped her eyes. "Is there? You raised the rent knowing we couldn't afford it. You ignored my calls. You watched me suffer." "Yes," I said simply. "I did. Because you wanted revenge. Because I needed you to understand what you'd done. What it feels like to be powerless. To beg for help and be ignored. To feel like your own existence is offensive to the people who should love you most." "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I was weak and scared and I let him control me and I chose wrong. I chose so wrong." I sat down, several chairs away. "Why? Why what? Why did you let him do it? You knew it was wrong. I saw it in your face every time. But you never stood up for me. Why?" She was quiet for a long time. "Because he made me feel like I was nothing without him. Like I was lucky he chose me. And I believed it. I believed I was so lucky to have him that I couldn't risk losing him. Even for you. And now I see him clearly. See what he is. What I became by staying with him." She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I understand what I did. How badly I hurt you. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life being better than that." "Are you really leaving him?" "Yes. I should have left him the day you walked out. But I'm leaving now." I nodded slowly. "Where will you go?" "I don't know. I have some money saved. I can get a studio somewhere. Figure it out." We sat in silence. "The rent increase," I finally said. "It's not personal. I mean, it started that way, but the building needed new management. The previous owner let everything deteriorate. I'm actually trying to make it better." "I believe you. But I can't give you special treatment. Can't lower your rent or make exceptions. That wouldn't be fair to the other tenants." "I understand. Kyle's late payment is documented. If he misses another month, I'll have to begin eviction proceedings. That's protocol. He won't be there. I'll take over the lease. I'll pay. Can you afford it?" "I'll figure it out. I always do." She gave me a sad smile. "I'm my mother's daughter, after all." Something in my chest loosened slightly. "You could break the lease," I offered. "Find somewhere cheaper. I won't hold you to the termination fees." She shook her head. "No. I want to stay. I want to pay you every month, on time, in full. I want to prove to you that I can be responsible. That I'm not the person I was 5 months ago." "Rosie. Please, Mom. Let me do this. Let me show you I'm trying to make things right." I studied her face, older now, marked by the consequences of her choices, but determined. "Okay," I said. "But you pay market rate. Same as everyone else." "I will." We sat there for another minute, the silence less heavy now. "Can I hug you?" Rosie asked quietly. I hesitated, then stood up and opened my arms. She crashed into me, sobbing into my shoulder like she used to when she was small. I held her, but carefully. Not quite ready to let my guard down. Not quite ready to forget. "I love you," she whispered. "I never stopped loving you." "I love you too," I said. "But love isn't always enough to fix things." "I know. But it's a start, right?" It's a start. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated lobby of Riverside Towers, watching the new security cameras being installed. The floors had been redone, the mailboxes replaced, the lighting upgraded. It looked like a different building. Felt like one too. Dylan walked up with a clipboard. Unit 2304 just submitted their rent payment. 3 days early, actually. That's 6 months in a row, never late. Good, I said. She's a model tenant. Quiet, respectful, takes care of the place. Hard to believe there was ever drama there. I smiled slightly. People can change. Rosie and I had dinner every other Sunday now. Not at my place or hers, neutral territory, usually a small restaurant halfway between our neighborhoods. The conversations were still careful, still testing boundaries, but getting easier. She'd left Kyle officially in June. He'd fought the divorce, tried to claim she owed him for breaking the lease, sent threatening messages until my lawyer sent a cease and desist. Now he was someone else's problem, living across town, probably charming some new victim. Rosie had gotten a promotion at work. Started therapy. Made new friends. Rebuilt herself piece by piece. We weren't quite mother and daughter again. Not the way we'd been. That version of us had died in her apartment that November night. But we were building something new. Something more honest, with clearer boundaries and stronger foundations. She'd asked me once if I regretted buying the building. No, I'd told her. It taught me something important. What? That I'm not just someone's mother or someone's wife. I'm Eleanor. And Eleanor is capable of much more than she ever imagined. My phone buzzed. Text from Rosie, Sunday dinner still on? Found a new place I think you'll like. I smiled and typed back, I'll be there. The building improvements were nearly complete. Occupancy was at 100%, tenant satisfaction scores were up, and I'd been approached by 2 other property owners asking if I wanted to expand my portfolio. Maybe I would. Maybe this was the start of something bigger. Or maybe it was enough to have this. One building well-maintained, 32 families housed safely, and a daughter who was slowly finding her way back. I walked outside into the September sunshine. Across the street was that coffee shop where I'd spent so many hours watching and waiting and plotting. I hadn't been back in months. But today I felt like coffee. I crossed the street, ordered a latte, and sat by the window with a book. Not watching the building. Not planning revenge. Just existing in the same space where I'd once sat broken and lost. A woman about my age sat down at the next table, struggling with too many shopping bags. Would you like me to watch those while you order? I offered. She looked relieved. Would you? Thank you so much. No problem. I remember what it's like to feel overwhelmed. She smiled and headed to the counter. I went back to my book, but I was smiling too. Life had taught me that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you love most. That betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from family. That powerlessness is a special kind of hell. But it had also taught me that strength comes in quiet forms. That justice doesn't always look like revenge. That sometimes the best way to heal is to build something new. Gerald would have been proud. Not of the revenge part, he'd always been too gentle for that. But of the survival. The transformation. The way I'd taken our hidden legacy and turned it into something solid and real. Take care of our girl, he'd whispered. I had. Just not in the way either of us expected. Sometimes taking care of someone means letting them face consequences. Means stepping back so they can learn to stand. Means becoming strong enough that you don't need them to validate your existence. The woman came back with her coffee. Thanks again. I'm Diane, by the way. Eleanor. Do you live around here? I own a building up the street. Riverside Towers. Oh. I heard that place really turned around. New owner came in and fixed everything. I smiled into my coffee. Yes, she did. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted? How did you reclaim your dignity? Your voice matters.